On Turning Point, with us is the senior pastor of Tabernacle of David and provincial pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God here in Nigeria, Pastor Kayode Pitan. Pastor, thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
And you just gave us a glimpse, a snapshot of your life, which was a bit of a thunderbolt for me and certainly some of us in here. Having been educated in the States, come back, set up a business in Nigeria, in $3 million debt. You start going after God, end up in a seminary. A preacher says, you're the man, takes you into a church, hands over the church to you hurriedly, dies. The first thing you have to do as a young pastor is arrange his funeral. That in itself is a ride. But I want to skip forward because there's so much that you're doing. And I have to confess, we ended up here because I spoke to a younger brother of mine who also knows you, tells me about this Holy Ghost party that you do in your church that brings in thousands of young people, lives have been changed. And then we dig a little deeper, find out that social justice has been done by your church, lives have been changed on the streets. Before you get to that, what were some of the things that you remember from the early years of Kayode Pitan's ministry? Because, now we know you for building one of the most prestigious churches in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, which is what gave us the president, vice president, and all these things. But before that, what are some of the things you remember in your journey, the highs and the lows?
Well, thank you very much. In summary form, I took over the church of about 70 people, about 20 years ago. For me, I saw the church as a trust. So I said to myself, whatever it was going to cost me, this church must not fail. So over a 14-year period, the church grew from about 70 to 1,000. And then we built the church you're talking about. It cost about $6 million.
Now, so the church that you took over is the Olive Tree on Banana, the one that ended up on Banana Island, which is where the present vice president comes from. Yes. Crikey, talking about going from ashes to
So God helped us, So I combined pastoring the church with my job.
So you were doing banking and full-time ministry.
Exactly, at the same time.
At what point do you decide this is enough? I need to focus on just the ministry.
By the time the church became about 1,000, I said to myself, God has been kind to me. The debt was behind. God has helped us to take care of that. I had risen in my career to MD CEO of the bank where I was working. My bank merged with 8 other banks. I became a director of the new bank. So I put in my papers that now let me spend more time working for God, who had been gracious and kind to me over the years. Interestingly, I resigned to grow Olive Tree Parish. But a year afterwards, I was transferred to my current church, which is Tabernacle of David.
Now, I gather Tabernacle of David grew from under 100 to now presently over 2,000.
No, when I took over, the church was in crisis. The pastor had resigned. So I inherited a church of about 800 people.
Right.
Now we're over 3,000.
Wow.
As a church.
So, by the way, I'm just going to say up front, anyone who can recover from $3 million debt needs to work. Please come and join us on CBN. But quickly, let's talk about the social work and the social justice. You're chairman of a non-governmental organization that the Redeemed Christian Church of God has, and also a charity in the UK that I discovered just before we spoke, I know very well. Tell us some of that, because many people, when they speak of you, they speak about finance, they speak about banking and pastoring, but their lives being changed outside of church.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the chairman of the Habitation of Hope. It's an NGO set up by Pastor Mrs. Adeboye, the wife of the General Overseer of RCCG. And basically, it takes care of the street boys, around Lagos, abandoned children. So they're taken off the streets, they're taken to the home, and they're taken care of, Some of those boys now who were taken off the streets are now graduates. Many are in secondary schools, Major source of funding for that, really, is from Pastor Mrs. Folu Adeboye, But in my current parish, where I am now in Ajah, we have a village, a Kota village, not far from us. We do intervene medically, to give free medical services to the people, free eyeglasses to the people. And every Sunday, we feed about 200 people, and that we're trying to increase. And then we have a few of them on scholarship, about 30 of the young ones, this church actually pays for them to go to school.
Yeah. Now, our time is almost up, but the first thing I heard about you was the Holy Ghost party. Thousands of young people coming in, lives have been turned around, people are giving their lives to Christ. Tell us briefly about that. We've got about a minute and a half.
The Holy Ghost party started about 6 years ago when I was transferred to this new church. The people are a bit younger. I wanted to have, to create something that will make the young ones want to come to vigil and pray. So that was the reason behind the Holy Ghost party. We call it party to attract them. But it's 7 hours of praise, worship, Holy Communion, and sermons. But we make it very interesting for them. On the average now, we have about 4,000 people coming for a 7-hour prayer meeting.
Wow.
Which we term party.
One final thing I want to ask you, when you think about the journey so far, can you think of one story of a life or something that happened that encourages you, that makes you think, yeah, this is why I gave it all up. This is why I serve the way I do. This is why I don't chase money like I used to. Is there a life that exemplifies that, or a story that exemplifies that you can share?
It's my story. It's a life of grace. I just look back and thank God. If not for God, I will not be here.